Hello everyone, I'm Dilusha Gamake and welcome to Ambeon Insights. When people around the world think of Sri Lanka, just one thing comes to their mind, and that is Ceylon tea. It's not just a drink, it's a legacy. It's our heritage. And there are few brands in Sri Lanka who carries this legacy with pride. Today, we are delighted to have a visionary leader who carries forward this legacy of excellence, innovation, and Sri Lankan heritage. He is the second generation steward of Mlesna tea, Birendra Perera, affectionately known as Jopi. Birendra, welcome to Ambeon Insights.
Good minded.
So, Birendra, from now onward, I'm going to call you Jopi. Is that all right with
That's
you?
perfectly all right. Everybody does it.
All right, great. So, Birendra, you have grown up in the world of tea, and what are your earliest memories to start off about Mlesna and your father and Perera and the vision for the brand of Mlesna? What are your earliest memories? Let's start from there.
Sure. So I'm going to have to delve into my mind for this, and we'll start with how he started. Simple and going ahead.
Okay.
My earliest memories, I was 5. Yeah, and this is how long ago the brand started, and it's 42 years old now. So I've given my age away. Um, my earliest memory is of peering through the back window and seeing my father blending tea manually by himself whilst he was supposed to be in bed. So I think I have a brother in the business as well. He's the head of tea, and he's older.
Two
And
brothers.
it's just the two of us, yes. And so the both of us used to watch him blend this vigorously and then carry the tea in manually. And he would sit with my mother in the then living room of our house. And till dawn, they would pack this tea into little packs and seal it close with an iron. They had very humble beginnings, a simple start to what then eventually became an international brand. That distribution from there onwards started, with little products like that. It was local first, and then it became international. So this is a fun memory simply because it explains the simplicity of our brand, how it started, and the need for being involved in your product to know where it can end up, because your personal investment into it matters.
And the brand name Mlesna also has a.
It has a lot of meaning to us. Of course. The story behind it is very simply put, it is my father's name in reverse. So, which is why if you take a close look at our brand name, our logo, the last letter is also capitalized. And this is basically a mirror reflection of his name.
That's the reverse
So,
of.
Ansem in reverse is Mlesna.
Okay, all right, great. And Jobin, what is it like to stepping into the business as a second generation? Now, because you're taking it over from your father, and he has already put the foundation and built the business. And so, what are the things that you inherit, and what are the things that you and your brother maybe put in as new additions to the business?
Right. So it's a lot to inherit. It's a legacy. You're stepping into a rather large pair of shoes. Yeah. And many have asked, how does it feel? What's it like to step into these shoes? And the simple answer is you can never fill them. Yeah. But you can try. You can try to walk in it. To try to walk a mile in it is a lot. And if anything, you just improve on what he's done. Uh, it is a journey in that you keep evolving the product, which is in our case innovation. So constant innovation, paying attention to quality, which is the key focus. If like many, if you know our brand, it's a niche product. We are very much in the niche extreme of the market. That is to say, we don't only do exclusive products, we do products which are generic as well. However, it's always in the higher quality section. And for this reason, we've always remained an expensive brand, which I'm quite aware of. And so as a market following, even with your consumers, you have people going, oh, it's quite expensive. Yeah. And it's like, yes, good quality is not cheap. Yeah. It's difficult because there's a lot of personal investment into it, in that we pay attention to the quality. So even with the blending, the tasting, the selections of the tea, this was something I was trained by my father directly, because he would do this himself. He didn't pass this on to somebody else. He passed it on to us. He trained us in this whole process. We learned to become tea traders like him, in that attending tea auctions, obtaining our stocks, preparing them for various products. And each of it is different. The thing with tea is each product is very different, and you will need to know all your T's. So you need to know your ABCs before you go ahead with anything. And I think having grown with the brand, being born into it, living the product has helped a lot. Yeah. So the role of leadership, to answer your question, it's something you grow into. Like I said about the shoes. Yeah. And knowing the product is very important for this. If not, you don't know how to take it forward. And with teas in Sri Lanka especially, you really need to know the intricacies. It's not just a generic item, which a lot of people think it is globally. If you lived here, you have a little bit more understanding about it. But if you're from an international audience, you don't realize that there are so many intricacies with Sri Lankan tea market. So Ceylon tea itself has an immediate selling point in that the diversity. The range is available for anybody, from which you can produce an umpteen amount of results. And which is why the tea market, yes, a lot of people say it's flooded, it's inundated. This is not that it's untrue. It's quite true, but it keeps evolving. All of those people, I think, at some point eventually figure out, okay, there's a different avenue we can go in here. Yeah, we can go down a different pathway, simply because there is so much diversity in Ceylon tea, and that's the main selling point. But through this, paying attention to quality is what we were trained to do by my father. If it was not good quality, don't put it out there. His simple question would be, would
Very
you
much
register your child?
conscious.
Exactly. He's very quality conscious.
Okay, so Mlesna brings that aspect throughout.
Absolutely.
That. And Joby, now how do you see that? Now you were mentioning about how different the Ceylon tea is, and when it comes to the current global positioning of Ceylon tea, um, do you think that do we have a lot of competition with other countries like Kenya and China, India, or where do we stand the Ceylon tea? How
Right.
have we
So in terms of international competition, yes, we now have a more, how would I say, evolved in competition to deal with internationally. If we went back maybe 50 years in the tea trade, I mean, we've been a brand for 42. So we're delving into the area where my father was actually really getting into this. Yeah. He was learning himself to become a person who's involved in tea. And as a tea taster, as a tea trader, he worked for a multinational back then, or a growing multinational brand, which was a British brand. Uh, and what he realized then is, okay, we are selling a commodity, and we weren't retaining any value in that. We were just selling a commodity to the world. But what he realized in dealing with international markets is ours is tea. And when I say ours, I mean Sri Lankan tea, Ceylon tea, is so diverse and unique that you can offer a range of variable options in terms of choice to the customer. And this was not being identified when it went out there. So it went out there, it was just a generic product which got mixed with other origin teas and ended up on a shelf. So the notion of Ceylon tea has always been of a high quality and from colonial times. So based on that and having that as a foundation was a good leverage point for a brand like us to step to the next mark and present to everyone, okay, hang on, there's a lot to be given here. And we started retaining that value here in terms of the value addition being added here. So if you
I
look
mean,
back
in
at
Sri
it,
Lanka?
yes. So if you go back 42 years to the inception of the brand, I would call my father quite a trailblazer because nobody had done this and everybody thought he's eccentric, you know. And he was actually called out like this by many in the trade, saying he's mixing tea with flavors, he's putting it in odd packets. You know, what are these gift boxes? This is not what tea is. Because to many, tea was a generic product that you
A
take home
bulk
and
tea.
yes, and you just take it home and you drink it. It wasn't gift worthy at that point. He turned it into something so unique that people wanted to give this for special occasions. Then to be identified as Sri Lankan, you know, it was to give good Ceylon tea. And in doing that, the diversity, I mean, one of the things that we have here in Sri Lanka is that is geographically gifted to us is the agroclimatic regions. No other tea producing market has so many agroclimatic regions. We have, it's technically 8, but it's officially identified as 7 agroclimatic regions, all different in terms of elevation, robustness. The uh, geographic qualities matter to the tea. The earth, the soil, the wind, the air
Depending on
temperature.
that, the tea.
Depending on that, the teas are very different. So what we realized is there's a tea for each kind of person. There's tea for time of day. There's teas for different markets. Now, as a pre-colonized nation, we were already trained to drink tea with milk and sugar.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is what
That's how we
this is
use
what we think
ancient
tea is. And
times.
that's how Southeast Asians like it, because we were all colonized by the British. And they taught us to do this. But if we went as far as Europe or Japan or Russia, they all had very different consuming habits of tea. So identifying this was key for us to be able to explore into new markets. So for just to give you a rough example, you go into Russia, they have tea with something sweet but very light. And they don't mix the sweetener into the tea. They have it separately. So kind of like how our villagers would have the jaggery and the tea separately, but in a different form. Yeah? You went into the West, some people only had tea as a herbal drink when they were ill, whereas the others had it with a slice of lemon or a spoon of honey or some additive into it. So that also has roots again here, just like how people drink it with ginger. So there's a lot of similarities yet differences. And then when you went to extremities like Japan, they only had real light, crisp teas. But they were willing to delve into the options we had and realize, hey, hang on, there's strong options, there's light options, there's something for each mood. And in a market like Japan, it's easier to sell tea because they are already a tea culture, but in a different way.
That it's part of their lifestyle.
It's completely a part of their lifestyle and has been for centuries. So it was easier to sell tea there. But giving them the option of choice, because I mean, choice is the consumer's prerogative at the end of the day. And giving them that option, it was amazingly that much easier to market it in that respect. Of course, at a time where we weren't traveling too much, Sri Lanka was still a nation getting used to changes in how geopolitical things mattered and how we were allowed to travel. As it is even now, it's difficult for Sri Lankans to travel everywhere, but we go into new markets and we found out. So he traveled a lot at that point and found out, hey, these guys really want something else. Yeah.
The different
And
taste, the
exactly,
requirement.
because most of our good, real high-end teas don't even get consumed here. I mean, we are roughly a nation of about 21, 22 million people now. Back then it was about 7 to 10 million. So much tea is produced here, no way could we consume it all here. It had to get exported, and that was a good source of national income as well. So as a brand that took it out there, though he was seen as a trailblazer, it also created a new genre, a new avenue for tea exports. And so if imitation is a form of flattery, I guess we should be very flattered now. Many brands took on the same pathway, which is good, because then the world knows, hang on, there's more choices out here. So we actually see that competition as healthy competition because it's a good space for us to grow as well. And this is how we have used the diversity of Ceylon tea, take it to the rest of the world.
So, Jopi, in that sense, like the brand positioning of Ceylon tea from 42 years ago to now, or what is the difference you see? Has it become stronger or weaker, or it's the same, or what do you expect?
Definitely stronger. Our growth was, I wouldn't say immediate. It was gradual, but very steady. So people realized what this was about. And now, 42 years later, it's definitely very strong. And what happens with 42-year evolutionary period is that, if anything, people suddenly realize, hang on, these guys are here to stay. They're talking about something that everybody else isn't talking about. And so our answer to that is, okay, we won't speak much. Consume the item, buy it, present it, find out what it's really about. Because good quality will always speak for itself. People come back to you. Bad experience means people will find out in 5 minutes. Yeah, there's nothing worse than bad news. It travels really fast. Good news travels slowly, but it doesn't change because it's good. People know it to be good. They trust it. And I think that's very important in a brand, especially like ours, the trust. You have to be able to have a consumer who trusts you to come back to you because you are synonymous with repeating a good habit, good qualities, good teas. Always go away with a good item, which creates a good memory down the path. And that's what it's about. Even if you transform it to today, 42 years later, social media will talk about something really good in such a positive way. Similarly, a negative can be very dangerous. It's like a knife. But the positive is brilliant always. And it always brings back more, I mean, eventually more business, which is what we're all looking for. But the main thing is a good following, a very good understanding of your product, a loyal customer. Yeah? And that's what you need.
So, how do you keep that loyalty? I mean, what are the unique features of Ceylon tea that you really sell to them other than the variety? What is so unique about Ceylon tea and Mlesna?
There's a multi multitude of answers that I can give you for this. But simply put, it's quality every time. Yeah? Pure quality every time. Like you said, the variety I've explained to you, the agroclimatic regions. And the amazing part about that again is you're limitless with what you can do with this. So one of the jobs of a tea taster, which is what I do, my brother and my father, we all do, is figuring out new blends. Yeah. And here you have 7, 8 different varieties that you can mix and match from to create for a new market. In the same way, not just the market, down to the consumer. We have, I mean, I know a lot of tea companies don't do this because they want large volume orders all the time. We look at very individualized things as well. So we've had some people would say crazy consumers coming to us and say, you know, this tea tastes a bit like this and I need it to be sharp, or I need it to be stronger, or I need it to be lighter. So just to draw an example, I'll give you one example. We had a lady who walked in and said, you all have changed the blend once. And she was foreign, living here for a long time. She's been living in the South. And mind you, I was in school, this was during the war, right? But I remember my father explaining this example. And she explained, saying, no, it's definitely different because it tastes different. So he brewed it in front of her in her tea bowl and said, no, look, it tastes the same. She tasted it and said, yes, it does taste the same. But then she took the tea leaf into her hands, smelled it and said, you smell it and tell me it's not different. And we said, okay, there's mild variance because I changed the blend a bit. She said, there you go. Now, this is what we want. We want a consumer to be so ingrained in our product to know that. But it was the next bit that really intrigued us. So he said, you tasted it and it was the same, but you smelled it and you said it was different, which is good, which means you yourself are somewhat of a taster. Correct. She was using a tea not to drink. She was smoking fish with it for culinary purpose.
I see.
She was a chef. We didn't know this. Yeah?
So that's
And
totally different.
completely different path. And so you keep opening your eyes to new methods, new avenues where your product keeps evolving. And so to answer your original question, like what else can you offer? This variety of 7, 8 different types of tea, you can mix and match and do so many other things. And now there's another little bit of information I'll give you here. So amongst the tea that we buy at tea auctions, I mean, all tea producers have to do this. We procure our tea at the tea auctions because you get the entire variety of all the tea estates in Sri Lanka. And there's more than 28 grades of tea, right? Now, I don't know if the general public knows this. It's 28 to 32. And when we say grade, we're not specifically speaking about a quality. We are speaking about leaf size, particle size, basically the nature of the tea leaf. Each of these varies every week due to climatic change, weather, everything. Yeah. Knowing the differences is our job, which is why it's a weekly operation. You keep tasting, and your tongue keeps learning. And you realize what goes where, which kind of consumer likes that tea. So for us, studying a consumer is very important to know what they like, what they want. So our relationship with the consumer is very personal. Yeah.
So individual level or country level, or how do you make?
It starts at country level, goes down to market level, and it goes down to in better markets, even individual consumer level. So
You go up to that.
absolutely. So one of the things we do, I mean, I'm giving away trade secrets here, but one of the things we do with a new market is we require water from that market. And especially if it's a new market to us. So we ask them to, a different country, we ask them to ship us 20 liters of water, let's say. And immediately you get the question, why do you need water? It's like, that's what we need to make tea. So what we do is we do trials with all this water. It's a tedious process and not everybody has time for this, but this is a learning process. You learn what works where. Instead of giving you what I want to give you what you want. So you study their patterns of consumerism. How does the tea taste in their water? Each climate has different water, different methods of supplying the water. So it might be filled with chlorine. We can then find a tea that works with that because teas brew differently in different types of water. Brewing temperatures are important. Brewing times are important. It's almost a science, but it's more knowledge by studying day to day. Yeah. And so you marry all this together to deliver a really unique product. So in terms of variety,
into a lot of details.
absolutely. And without doing that, you don't know your consumer at the end of the day. Yeah? So which is why I guess we've remained niche. Yeah? You can't be a mass market product when you do something like this. You have to remain.
That is the speciality of
Absolutely. Absolutely.
high quality tea. And Joby, now when you demand now the in the tea trade now demand shifts for herbal teas or flavored teas or
Yes.
different
Absolutely.
segments of demand
Yeah.
coming in.
So
So how
the
do you maneuver through that?
absolutely. So the demographic changes each time. Your consumership changes, and how you work with this is, so you mentioned an important thing there, which a lot of people actually. It's not a misunderstanding; it's a misconception. Sometimes when you say herbal teas, they still think it's tea. So obviously, anything that can be brewed piggybacks on tea.
On tea.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
This is what consumers are like, right? So we have tea, and when you have herbal tea, so for example, Sri Lanka has actually been a herbal tea producing nation longer than it's been a tea producing nation. So we've been producing tea for over 150 years. But the herbal teas, if you look at our Ayurvedic roots, have been going back for centuries and millennia. So with all sorts of herbs from Polpala to Ranavara to, Iramosu and all of these drinks. If you take those, they're not processed though. Black tea, just like coffee or most other things that have evolved, runs through a process. It's brought, it's withered, it's rolled, it's baked almost, and then turned into a product simply because shelf life has to improve. Yeah. So you have to be able to store it well. It has to be packaged well then and exported to another place where it has to live well as well. So good tea has a shelf life of about 3 to maybe even 5 years. Yeah. Uh, Coming back to it, with the herbal teas, they offer certain health aspects, but they can't give you the lifestyle aspects as well as regular consumption health aspects. So I say this in that tea and coffee is drunk on a daily basis by a lot of people. And so if you're going to consume something daily, it has to be healthy for you. So certain herbal teas you can only consume restrictively because it will be good for one thing, maybe not so good for another thing. So without meaning to throw down any other herbs, certain herbs will increase blood flow but might not be the best thing for your kidneys. Similarly, there'll be other things that will help you with diabetes. So we have things like that here. I think they call it Kotala, yeah, which is very good for bringing your blood sugar down. But if consumed in the wrong doses, can be very detrimental. Yeah. So even an Ayurvedic doctor would be very careful in dispensing this to a patient. So similarly, there are loads of herbs that have pluses and minuses like this. The thing with tea is you can consume a lot of cups in a day. It is not going to cause any problems for you. Not only that, you have options of consuming. You can have it with milk, you can have it with sugar, you can have it with honey, you can have it with ginger. You want 9 different cups of tea for the day, you can have that. Yeah. And this variety again and again keeps coming up because variety is the spice of life, as they say, right? And as I said, consumers' prerogative. So even if you take a young consumer, an older consumer, someone who's experienced, inexperienced, if it's someone who's exploring, there's something for everyone. And this is where we decided the whole value addition chain is important. So flavored teas, for example. Going back 42 years, we started flavoring teas about 40 years ago. My father was called a heathen for adding flavors into good tea. But what he
That
realized
was
is
not
it was
accepted
not
at that
accepted by the
point.
gurus at that time. And they actually called me a madman. Yeah. He said, no, I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Right.
And because he could see a broader picture here. Yeah. And certain markets, certain flavors work. Of course, with certain blends, not with everything. So you couldn't flavor any old tea. Certain specific blends for that market, a different bunch of blends for another market with similar flavors. So this has evolved into such a following. Now everybody knows, and internationally people travel more. There's more awareness because of social media. Everybody wants a chai. Everybody wants a bubble tea. Everybody wants a matcha. People have awareness, and the modern consumer is educated, which is great. Yeah. And education is at our fingertips these days in any way. And when I say education, it's knowledge. You want to find out something, in 2 seconds you can find it out. Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? Will I like it? Will I not? Even that, you read the reviews, you find out. And then you go after something. So the consumer today is actually, you're dealing with a very smart consumer. You cannot dupe them. So the best policy is honesty, give them something and say, so like I said earlier, a lot of personal level information. You find out how they like certain things, then you can offer them something that really matches their taste profile, their palate. And finding that bit out is a little difficult, obviously, at the start. But this trade has now evolved to such a level where people are generally in certain buckets. Yeah? You're either a black tea consumer or a green tea consumer. You're someone who either likes it strong or light. So there's basic questions like that. And customers, new customers especially, often, after 5 minutes, it may go, my gosh, this is like, question time. I'm like, yes, I need to find out more. Yeah. And then you give them an answer that really works for them. And then they go, oh, wow. Yeah. But there's nothing more satisfying than serving them something like that and watching the expression, because they drink it and go, yes, this is what I wanted. Yeah. That's just an amazing amount of satisfaction to someone who does what I do on a daily basis. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when the world is becoming, the consumer is becoming more and more health conscious, I think the tea is a very good option because
Absolutely,
it can
absolutely. It
be.
helps with so many aspects of health as well, hypertension, diabetes, migraines, anything. There is a cup of tea for everybody. And that's what it is. Yeah.
So, Joby, in that same sense, now, what are the biggest challenges that you see currently when it comes to Sri Lanka is facing in sustaining the Ceylon tea brand and in the export markets,
Right.
geopolitical or climate, or what are the challenges that you see is the
Right.
most
So,
imminent?
yes, most of those things are all problems on different levels. Yeah. So, we'll go step by step if you don't mind. Uh, Geopolitical
Okay.
is a big one and has been for quite a while, but I think really accelerated in the last 20 years. And so let's take the pandemic as an example. Post the pandemic, we saw a lot of issues because what we saw was tea. People still wanted their tea. Now there was a problem in trying to get it. Yeah. And we saw this both on a national level and an international level. Shipping became an issue. So as you know, logistics up to date, I mean, I think shipping channels are still struggling to recover from when the pandemic took place because the availability of ships to transport goods across the world is far less. So something that we suddenly, were used to having as taken for granted was missing. And we needed to get our product out there. People became desperate. So people went to the level of air freighting tea, couriering tea at great expense. That's when you realize demand doesn't really die. Yeah. There's a global problem. They still want that tea. And we still want to sell it because it doesn't stop growing, right? So this is actually pivotal for the tea trade. The pandemic actually brought about the tea trade transforming itself from a manual tea auction, which happened once a week in the Chamber of Commerce,
Digital
to the
platform.
largest digital platform auction on the planet. Yeah. And it's amazing. We did it in 1 week, which just shows the resilience of a country like Sri Lanka, and then transforming an industry that's 150 years old overnight. But to come back to it, we started looking at new ways of delivering the tea in any way possible. But the geopolitical factor continues to evolve into different problems. But I think the fact that we are a resilient nation in what we do, we keep finding a method to overcome these issues. So there's problems from the wars, there's problems from all the shipping channels. One affects the other. So the current wars that are happening in the Middle East, in Western Europe, all of these issues cause shipping channels to change their pathways, which caused logistical problems again for us. But we had to look for new methods of transporting them and then work faster to deliver more goods in one go because you have to wait for that ship as much as you can at that time. Yeah. We also then looked at different markets since, you set up your own operation there to be able to have stocks and deliver goods rapidly. Uh, Platforms like, all the e-commerce platforms helped a lot with this, but you still had to change the way you basically logistically arranged yourself. You asked about geopolitical and climatic changes. And climatic change is another huge issue. This has been affecting how the tea grows here, which inadvertently re-affects how your seasonal changes affect tea. And like I said,
And output.
absolutely. So all these agroclimatic regions, they had a specific season in which they produced the best teas and the average teas. We used to be able to follow it through the calendar. It was a cycle. It is not the same anymore. So you have to really now pay attention. So suddenly, something that had 150 years of evolution had to be almost, it's like reinventing the wheel. You have to start watching this again because the calendars have changed, the growing patterns have changed. We can't guarantee that a monsoon is coming. We don't know when the next drought is. All of this affected it. And through each of those changes, you have to figure out, how do I control my product. And one of the most important things to us is delivering quality every time, like I said. In order to do that, the cup of tea needs to be perfected each time to produce what I gave you the previous time. Now, to do that, the equation keeps changing. So, this is a problem for the tea tasters and graders because we are constantly tasting, constantly changing the blends to provide, you get the same answer. We keep changing the equation. So the consumer should not suffer that. Yes, exactly. So it's a real science-based, knowledge-based, real war zone in the tasting room, but to deliver the customer what they require. Yeah? I mean, you can't let the customer down, and that's the golden rule: is you don't let your customer down. If anything, you over deliver, you don't under deliver. So reinventing what you do, and this is why I said it's an evolving business always. Yeah, might be that it's a 150-year-old drink, but to us, but it's older than that in the world. But it still keeps changing, still finds new consumership. And what amazes me often is that, okay, back in the day when you said tea, this is what the uncles and aunties drank. Today, young people are drinking tea. And they love it in so many forms, whether it's iced or whether it's mixed with boba pearls or whether they have it straight or with a piece of ginger, a piece of lime or something. We see a lot of, I did a lot of presentations in schools so that the youngsters understand what tea is. And the moment you tell them the evolution, the history of everything that has happened here, you see all these eyes looking at you like, oh, wow. They're thirsty for that knowledge. Yeah. And so then when you tell them there's a cup of tea for each of you, they are on you like, a magnet drawn to a metal. Immediately want to know what's going on, immediately want to find out. But the health aspect is very important. And there's nothing that beats knowledge. Yeah. Teaching your young consumer something good because then they know what's bad and how to avoid it. So, which is why delivering quality is very important to us. Yeah.
And Joby, how important is the innovation aspect of it now? Because tea is for generations. We have been drinking tea. So how do you innovate? How innovation get involved in your trade in terms of your product development or making the variety or reaching out to the
Innovation
customer?
is one of our main keys. Without innovation, our product would not be out there in the variety that we have it. So, just to give you a rough idea, any company has their standard SKUs that they would sell to the market. Our SKU list is a little insane. So, it's over 3,500 products. So, this is because market to market it varies. And so, we'll take a basic example. English breakfast. Everybody knows what English breakfast is. Our relatively strong tea.
The most used.
The most used tea. Our English breakfast is different in a lot of markets simply because it's fine-tuned to that market. Yeah.
Right.
Similarly, we have
Mlesna English breakfast tea is different from each one
it's
market to
different
the
when we
market.
produce it, but you can drink it in every country, it'll taste the same. But because of that, we've got to keep different stocks. We've got to maintain in a different way, re-innovate how it's served also. But similarly, we do a lot of gift items with tea. So creating something attractive to a new market is constant innovation.
And that is one of your unique proposition, the gift
Absolutely.
items.
The gift items is a complete large area for us, plus very unique. We fine tune it to each customer, each market. And something a lot of people don't know, even in Sri Lanka, is that we do a lot of customized gifts for many entities. And it can be customized down to what type of tea you want, how the product looks, what form of packaging, whether it's metal, glass, porcelain, wood, paper. There's so many options. So it's become a very popular wedding gift. It's become a very popular party gift. No one would have thought this so many years ago. It's tea. What are you doing? But it's the form you present it in. One of the most important things to us is the usability of the packaging afterwards. So it has to serve some purpose. Otherwise, you're just selling a consumer item. So the ornamental value, the gift-worthy value, that's important to us. And so this is why one of our taglines is give the gift of good taste. Yeah. Because you're giving a gift,
Good taste.
the gift of good taste. But you're giving them something with good taste in it as well. Yeah.
Right. And Jobina, when it comes to Mlesna, what are the strategies that have worked best for Mlesna to establish itself in the global markets? And what is your future plans? How do you want to evolve it
Well,
into the future?
right. If anything, I think for the future, we want to personalize it even more. Yeah. So the stepping stone to this is, you have to serve tea then, yeah. And we have started doing this. We started doing this sometime back with our tea shops. In that we have them nationally as well as internationally. We were selling tea products, gift products, but we started serving them. So even here, we've started serving tea, pairing them with food. We haven't made too much of a song and dance about it here, but internationally, it is very large. It goes in a large audience. We've been very successful in places like Japan, Italy, Greece, Taiwan, where the tea is paired with food and sold. Uh, the innovation aspect is very important for this. The quality aspect is very important for this, and knowledge prepared and delivered to the individual consumer is very important. So, re-innovating even old products is very important so that you deliver it in a modern day context to the consumer. Yet, with an old school touch of finesse to it, so that the product has its roots in it. Yeah, and people identify this as being, hey, hang on, this is an old product, but it's so unique and it's modern now. Yeah. So I think that's our marketing angle for the future and a stepping stone in, the second generation taking over a 42-year-old brand. Yeah.
Yes. I think you're talking with a lot of passion about the brand.
Passion driven has to be the baseline there. If not, you're not going to succeed with a brand like this. And it's all about personal connection, family connection, because it's a family owned brand at the end of the day.
Right. And now, because you have grown with tea throughout your life, so what are the things that you see as a tea trade, the industry in Sri Lanka? Do you expect any changes to take place, or how do you want it to be developed to the future as a country?
Right. So the changes will always be there. One of the things that we have to understand is change is imminent, it's unavoidable, and we have to change and evolve with things as well. So if we stay stuck in the past and only do what we have been doing, it's dangerous for a brand. It's also dangerous for a trade. So nationally, yes, there's a lot of challenges internationally and nationally. So to come back to the national aspect, we're constantly faced with tax problems, this, that, currently also one of the most prominent things is this whole VAT issue. But we have to overcome this. We can't say no because we have to look at national development. The country does things for a certain reason. We have to try and support our governments as well. So without meaning to be apolitical or anything like that, we try to evolve with it and keep moving. But we have to understand is that tea is here to stay. But then in order to keep it that way, we have to keep it attractive to the consumer. Whilst not overpricing ourselves, we can't underprice as well because we don't want people to think that this is a cheap product. Yeah? And there was a time in history, I think, that tea was identified as being a cheap consumer product. Yeah?
A bulk product.
Yes, exactly. And people were like, "Oh no, coffee is more popular, but it's more expensive." It was a mindset. To be honest, no, it's not that. It's just the availability, and we were trying to make it affordable. But now that consumers are more affluent, b more educated, like I said before, they know what they're going after. They know what they can find out as well, and everybody wants something better in life. Yeah. So to head into the future, we have problems, yes, internationally as well, and for international producing markets, for example. So if you look at the production chart, yeah, we are probably at the bottom in terms of the larger black tea producing nations. But that is mainly geographical reasons in terms of volume and capacity. Some other countries will have, tea producing climate in plateau regions. We have mostly everything on a hill. Yeah. It's very difficult to mechanize such things. So evolving it.
Kenya or India.
Yes. So for example, if you take a place like Kenya, the African tea market in general has high elevation on plateau. So
So they can mechanically.
yeah, mechanizing is very easy. Plucking is made very easy. You have less manual input with more output. But again, what happens is that when you over mechanize things, or you tend to modernize things in that respect, you lose a certain quality element. One of the unique things about Sri Lanka is that still tea, to largely, there are people who mechanize quite a bit, but largely is hand plucked. Yeah. There's a certain stigma that has gone around with the world saying, it's highly labor driven in that respect. No, yes, but I think, and I beg to differ with a lot of international people who have, mentioned this, that we actually treat our labor force with much more respect. We give them better pay and better facilities than most nations. Yeah? And this reflects in the product because they put their heart and soul into the product, and you have a brilliant product at the end of the day. And Because of this, because of the whole hand-picked nature, the hand-blended, hand-packed nature of it, of course, a lot of people mechanize the blending also today. You still pay a lot of attention to it when you're packing. It becomes a very bespoke item. And a bespoke item like that is totally made with, like you said, passion, care.
That's the
Very unique.
uniqueness.
That is the uniqueness, that your personal attention into someone's cup of tea gift has been given. And I guess this is why there's a term, it's not my cup of tea or it's my cup of tea. Yeah, it's very individual. Yeah?
What is your cup of tea?
It's too varied to say, yeah, because I drink about 9 to 12 cups of tea a day.
Right.
And from morning to evening, it will vary
You have
what I
different
want.
cups of
I have different cups of tea. I start off with something strong and then go into something light later on. And maybe even a green tea by the end of the day. Yeah.
Right. And Jopi, the last but not least, what would be your advice to the tea entrepreneurs out there who would be want to start or getting into the industry? What would be your advice?
Work with quality in mind and try to be unique. Yeah. Innovation is the key and quality is the driver.
And it's a gentleman's trade.
It has remained a gentleman's trade and so it should. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, Jopi, for joining with Ambeon Insights. And I know that you have a very busy schedule, but despite your schedule, thank you for joining with us and sharing your insights. I think our listeners will have a very good idea about how the branded tea or the Ceylon tea is being positioned in the world and what the future holds for Ceylon tea in the future and where the tea trade or the tea industry is heading in the future. Thank you for watching Ambeon Insights, and we will be meeting again soon with another exciting episode.